I think the D word, deflation, is still something that's looming over China's economy. So one of the reasons why I don't think Singles Day was a big success is that brands like the retailers have had to discount constantly throughout the entire year. That's why we're bullish on a Pinduoduo, because Chinese consumers are still very nervous about the geopolitical situation. They're nervous about the domestic situation, and they're just worried about the economy. So they're trading down. So instead of buying Apple, they're buying Xiaomi. Instead of going to Starbucks, they're going to Luckin Coffee. So when you take a look at it, I think expectations are low, and they should be low because the consumer's just not bouncing back. And the Chinese government hasn't launched any major stimulus because, as we've talked about in the past, China's run out of money, and they don't want to go into the same debt that the United States has. So I'm cautiously optimistic for 2024, but the end of this year is still going to be a rough time for most retailers. If you want to invest, you got to be buying the cheap products like a Xiaomi, the cheap products like a Luckin, companies like that, Will.
Can I just ask you, because you mentioned Pinduoduo, and a lot of chatter, not just in China, but overseas as well, has been around Temu and the success that it's had initially in the overseas markets. But what do you make of what Amazon suggested today in terms of them trying to take on the likes of a Temu and the likes of a Shaun by, you know, jumping in bed and advertising in Meta, Snap and Pins? Do you think that that's... of course, they're very different social networks, but Meta does have Instagram. Do you think that that is going to be enough to challenge what the offering that a Temu and a Shaun have, particularly at that low cost, you know, ultra tight margin kind of discretionary spend?
So I'm not an expert on Amazon, to be honest, Will. The only thing I know about Amazon is when they were in China, and they're not in China anymore because they're one of the worst run companies from the United States and China. So I can't imagine that they're suddenly going to be able to figure out how to compete with Temu and Shaun. You know, Pinduoduo is really a well-run company, and, you know, getting products cheap, fast, and direct from the factory to the end consumer. I think what's more exciting about Singles Day is not which brands that did well. Okay, Lululemon did great, UGG did great. What's more exciting for me is how there's been a shift, and you've seen an end of the dominance of Alibaba, and you've seen the rise of the live streaming sales. So Kuaishou did really well. You see Douyin did really well, as you just mentioned, with maybe 29 billion in revenue over the previous quarter or so. So the name of the game is the live streaming. So investors should be looking at Pinduoduo, Douyin, Kuaishou. I'd be very cautious of Alibaba. And as for Amazon, look, I write books. I sell my books on Amazon. It's an absolutely horrible experience trying to sell books, and it's a horrible experience trying to buy things. I just don't see how it's possible that Amazon can compete with the fast-moving, aggressive, and ambitious Temu or Pinduoduo.